So this morning I put on Instagram that I was doing a few of these videos today, and has anyone got any questions? Well, yes, lots of people got questions, and I will go through them as many as I can. But one particular friend of mine, Bob, lovely man, sent me 3 pages of questions. I'm going to deal with them all. I'm not going to leave any unturned. So first off, is man-made climate change real? Yes, demonstrably true. When you look at any of the unzipping of human behaviour and natural variations, it's very clear. There's a rise. It's our fault. We've got to do something about it. What needs to happen to meet 1.5 degree C target? Okay, what is the 1.5 degree C target? Okay, when we look at average global temperatures, it's thought that if we go above 1.5 degrees average rise in temperatures, then we're going to have irreversible impacts of climate change. We need to stay below 1.5. Some would argue we've already bust that opportunity. Some would say we're on target for 2, 3, or 4 degrees. 4 degrees C, all of the Greenland ice sheets melt. 4 degrees C, we're looking at a 7-meter minimum sea level rise. That is terrifying, so we have to do something about it. What do we need to do to hit 1.5? Well, when you look at what the experts say, and I believe them, we need to hit a 45% reduction in CO2 output by 2030. It's quite soon. And we need to be at net zero by 2050. Now, net zero is the point where the amount of carbon that we emit is balanced by the amount of carbon that we sequester, that we put back into the ground. And it's really easy to get very negative about offsetting and tree planting, and there are some horrific offsetting and tree planting schemes. There are 2 ways of building a carbon offset. Number one is you grow something. It could be sea kelp, it could be seagrass, sorry. It could be growing peat bogs, it could be growing trees, other vegetation. It could be building soil carbon. That's the magic. That's where we have to go. And that holds carbon in. The other way of generating a carbon offset is by switching from, for example, a kerosene stove to a solar stove, and then claiming the benefit because you're not burning the kerosene anymore. Now, that kind of carbon, that's great, right? Just do it. That's the best thing to do anyway. But that kind of carbon offset is likely to be challenged and is likely to not cut it in terms of net zero and in terms of the accreditation of net zero plans. So be very, very careful where you put your offset. There's some dreadful ones, there's some amazing ones. Is flying really bad for the planet? Yeah, everything's bad for the planet. Literally everything that we do. Flying equates to about 2 to 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is relatively small. But it's a relatively small amount of journeys, so it's disproportionately important. So sure, we should definitely fly less, and we should probably definitely fly very, very few short-haul flights. But fundamentally, some people still need to fly. There are some sectors that just aren't going to be able to reduce their carbon impact. Flying, aviation is one of those. And we're seeing some advancement in fuel, and we're seeing some potential advancement in electrically driven planes, but we're a long, long way from that. So yeah, it is bad, but guess what? It's nowhere near as bad as the animal agriculture industry, for example, as the textile industry, for example. It gets held up as a totem of badness, but everything's bad. So it's about understanding what is worse than others. What exactly is systems change and how can this be achieved? Oh, Bob, this is a great question. What is it? It's changing the way that all of our systems work. There's no such thing as bad materials. There are just bad systems that they sit in. The way that our systems are built up, layered. We don't sometimes stand on the shoulders of giants. We sometimes stand on the shoulders of foolish decisions. And some of our systems make absolutely no sense at all. So creating opportunities for systems change, that's where the real benefit sits. And we can see this in so many sectors, not least energy sectors. We change the system, we reduce the impact, and us, the consumer, or as I like to call us, the citizen, don't have to do very much, but we should do more. Next question. How can the concept of time enable us to better connect to the climate emergency? It's a brilliant question. And I'd rephrase it. How has the concept of time allowed us to disconnect with the climate emergency? We think in really short time windows. We think in maybe decades, maybe. When you're in your 20s, you might be thinking about your 30s, maybe. Maybe not even that long. You might just be thinking in your 20s, you're probably just thinking about the weekend, right? But this whole idea that something that's going to happen 30 years away has its source in the decisions to eat or not eat a certain diet now, that feels really nebulous. That feels really complex. And so being able to see what the future looks like based on the decisions you make now, that's the answer. How we do that, I'm not entirely certain, but we need to harness the power of creativity. Look, I'm going to be really honest with you. I failed. My sector's failed. I've known about climate change for 32 years, probably 40 years. The world's known about climate change for twice as long as that. We haven't explained complexity and problems and opportunities anywhere near well enough. And this leads to another question on here, which is around creativity. If we could harness the power of the advertising industry to shift the needle on behavior change, boom, it would be really compelling. It would be the thing that we wanted to do.